Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've mentioned in your response to questions this morning, and likewise a little bit in your testimony, that you cannot assess the entire position of our country. For example, presently, hopefully somebody in the Defense Department or elsewhere is taking a look at our status of our military equipment overall. We get briefings from time to time as to deficiencies in a good number of categories of equipment for all of our armed forces, or likewise taking a look at the personnel situation. How are we going to maintain the armed forces that we have? Do we make changes in how we obtain people for our armed forces? Are there Americans prepared to serve in the amounts that may be required to meet all of our situations? Likewise, you cannot quite assess, nor can most of us, what it means to have the potential for economic recession in our country, or the spread of that to other countries in the world, which then deprive us of resources generally. Likewise, what deficiencies do we have in energy security? There are food shortages now throughout the world. All of these are in a situation. As you pointed out, your job today is to discuss your responsibilities and the United States responsibilities in Iraq. But these come in the midst of huge changes that are going on in our own context, some of them of our own making: the lack of saving of the American people, the problems of subprime mortgages, all of the things which really were not a part of Iraq, but are a part of our preparedness, our ability to respond to all this. Now, I put it in this way because usually when persons, not yourselves, but others, are asked, what if we were to withdraw significant American forces from Iraq? A lot of American forces. Some people say we would have to rely then upon diplomacy to a greater extent. We would have to have a better consort with the countries that surround Iraq, or the United Nations, or NATO, or somebody else to fill in for that which we are not providing. Or others would just simply say there will be dire consequences. And the consequences sometimes include civil war, or at least sectarian violence in many parts of the country, intervention by other countries who engage in that situation, deprivation of the oil resources. But let me just pose that particular question to the two of you. What are the dire circumstances? And then secondly, what sort of contingency planning are we making as a nation for the dire circumstances? In other words, in the event that these dire circumstances occur with or without 140,000 troops, what and who really comes to the rescue? How do we meet greater civil war, for example, or intervention by other countries, or the things that are usually predicted in the event that the core of American security is mitigated or removed?
Well, Senator, what we have both identified as concerns, if the progress is put into jeopardy, if other factors conspire against it, revolve around al-Qaeda regaining lost ground and influence, and then perhaps using that as a base to spread further.
Well, what do we do about that, General?
We're staying after al-Qaeda is what we're doing about it, Senator, tenaciously. We are battling al-Qaeda every day.
But you need more forces, would you not, in the event that despite all of this?
We have the forces that we need right now, I believe. We've got to continue. We have our teeth into their jugular, and we need to keep it there. We have tough fighting to do, in particular in Mosul and Nainawa province, and we have to continue and press the fight. And that's why I laid out the comprehensive approach that we are taking, which, by the way, very much involves diplomacy with source countries. It involves communications indirectly to Syria. It involves help from neighbors and so forth, just to take action such as, for example, not allowing a military-age male to take a one-way ticket from some Sunni Arab country to Damascus, for example. Beyond that, other concerns, of course, the resumption of the ethno-sectarian violence that tore Iraq apart in 2006 and 2007. You saw the statistics on that. Over 55 dead bodies a day just in Baghdad, just from ethno-sectarian violence, which caused so much of the tearing of the fabric of Iraqi society, in which the surge was indeed intended to first to stop and then to try to help people have the time to put a few stitches back into it. The ambassador and I have both raised concerns about Iranian influence. As we mentioned this morning, the involvement of Iran with the so-called special groups and their activities in this indirect fire on the international zone, the seat of Iraqi government, came out in very high relief and generated enormous concern among Iraqi leaders, as well as, of course, among coalition leaders and civilians, because a number of these fell short, and in fact probably more civilian lives were lost than were others.
What do you do about that, General, about the Iranian influence, even as it's high profile?
What we have done, sir, is we have detained special group members. We are going to lay out for the press here at some point in the future what we have learned from them about the Quds Force training, equipping, funding, and directing of the so-called special groups, and the help that Lebanese Hezbollah has provided them. As I believe I reported to you in September, we detained the deputy head of Lebanese Hezbollah Department 2800, which is responsible for assisting the Iranian Quds Force in the training and equipping of these so-called special groups, and we've since detained a number of the special group members, some of their financiers, some of their leaders, and 4 of their 16 master trainers. We'll lay that out, and we'll lay out the various weapons caches and other finds that we have had that, again, show the very, very clear involvement of Iran in Iraq. That ties into regional stability, and then, of course, it all ties eventually into the global economy. And it is noteworthy that the progress in Iraq has enabled it to reach, in fact, recently the highest export levels ever, I believe it is, out of the north. And the levels have exceeded their export goals now for the first 3 months of the year. And so, again, an area of progress due to security progress as well.